Thanks for tuning in to Unbreakable with Chris Chamasairos. Let's jump right in. Before I begin with what happened with Joe Rogan, where he says he's sticking with Jesus, everybody in the country, everybody in the United States of America, and even around the world owes Joe Rogan a lot of gratitude because he has one of the biggest platforms in the world. And when nobody would let Donald Trump onto their platform to tell his side of the story, and he was basically banned from all these big platforms, Joe Rogan, who for years has been a Democrat, a liberal, a Californian type of guy who used to always said, "I'm not here to help President Trump." He gave President Trump an opportunity to go on his show and explain himself, his policies, and his side of the story. And I will never ever criticize Joe Rogan again, ever. He could hijack a plane at this point, and I still wouldn't criticize him. If it wasn't for Joe Rogan, every person in America would be beyond screwed right now. Because if you don't think that President Trump going on the Joe Rogan show didn't help catapult President Trump to win the election, I don't know what to tell you. It's a complete lie. And many big time podcasters and big media outlets, they were all doing the same thing to Trump, closing the door. They didn't want President Trump to speak. And Joe Rogan, who was definitely on the other side of the aisle for a very long time, said, "You know what? I'm going to let him come on my platform and tell his side of the story." And that's all that anybody ever deserves in America is you deserve an opportunity. And Joe Rogan gave that to President Trump. And because he did that, for I will forever be grateful to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan saved the country by being fair. He saved America by giving President Trump an opportunity. So before I get into this video, I have no clue who Joe Rogan's talking to here. I don't know who this guy is. You could be like, we'll give you $20 million to name this guy. I have no clue who this person is. But Joe Rogan, forever, he used to mock Jesus Christ. He was, he's just doing his California type thing. And hey, that's was his deal. He didn't believe in Jesus, and that was his right. But think about how powerful and impactful Joe Rogan is with the size audience that he has. So if somebody and I'm not saying that Joe Rogan was trying to influence people away from God or say that they didn't believe. He wasn't doing that. He was just telling his point of view. But most people are not strong minded. They'll listen to Joe Rogan and be like, well, Joe Rogan said this, F Jesus, I don't care about God. There's no such thing, because that's where Joe was at the time. Now you're starting to see Joe Rogan, and he's like, this is what Democrats do to people. This is what liberals do to people. They're so vile and disgusting. They turn their biggest supporters basically into conservatives and Jesus people. And it's just mind blowing because Joe Rogan was one of the biggest supporters of the Democratic Party, along with Elon Musk, along with RFK. So Joe Rogan going on his show and saying, I'm sticking with Jesus, he's not trying to manipulate any, like you see these mega pastors, and they're all about the money. They want to drive the best cars, live in the best houses, and they're preaching Jesus for all the wrong reasons, for their own financial gain and all the other garbage that they're into. Joe Rogan's just going on his show and he's having a conversation. Now, I don't know if Joe Rogan realizes this or not. He might not. I'm not him. I don't know. But you know how many people will go to Jesus Christ now because of Joe Rogan? Where before they were like dead set against, oh, I don't believe in that garbage. It's garbage. I'm not even gonna look into that. F Jesus. People will say things like that. And because somebody as influential as Joe Rogan is now opening his eyes to things and talking about Jesus and talking about conservatism and saying how great Texas is and how messed up California is, all the people that were going down that path of destruction now put the car in park and start listening to what Joe Rogan is saying. And now he saved millions upon millions of people. People underestimate your voice. I'm not saying anybody underestimates Joe Rogan's voice, but in Joe Rogan's mind, he's just a human. He knows people listen to his show. Again, I don't know if he sits back and realize, like, I'm sure he doesn't say, well, it's a big deal. I'm influencing people to Jesus. He's just as he's having this conversation, all the kind of mindless robots that just believe what somebody says say to themselves, you know what? Joe Rogan said it. Let me check it out. And it changes millions of people's lives overnight. It's absolutely amazing. Let's let Joe Rogan talk to this guy. I don't know who he is.
Well, space is the ultimate who the fuck knows, because we can only see so far. We see so far, but even so far is only so far.
Well, and then they're saying like it's always expanding, which that can't be true, because like what is it expanding into? If space is space, you know, if they're like, oh, it's like blowing up a balloon where everything's okay, but you're blowing up a balloon in a room, right? So what's the room that you're blowing the balloon into? And then that's in a bigger room, and then that's in this.
And then there's the concept that it's actually finite. It's not infinite, and it's some sort of donut shape. It like goes back around eventually.
But then who made all that? Right. Like, is there a God? Did God make this?
Or is God the universe?
Yeah, but then who made God? And then that bothers me.
Right. But
like, who made that thing?
Is that a thing that we think that, like, because we were born and we die, that we have these biological limitations that we attach to the universe itself?
That's fair. That we see things as being built and destroyed.
That there's always been something. Well, wouldn't it be crazy if there wasn't something at one point in time? That seems even crazier. Then there always has been something. Because if it's just something, if it's just the nature of everything, there is always something, right? Right. It couldn't be nothing and then all of a sudden everything. That seems...
Because what started that? What kicked that off?
Exactly.
What snapped its fingers? Like
that's McKenna's great line. Terrence McKenna had a great line about the difference between science and religion is that science only asks you for one miracle. I want you to believe in one miracle, the Big Bang.
Yeah. That's a good one.
It's a great line. Yeah. It's because it really is true. Yes. And it's funny because people would be incredulous about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but yet they're convinced that the entire universe was smaller than the head of a pin, and for no reason that anybody's adequately explained to me. It makes sense.
Yeah, no.
Instantaneously became everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't buy that.
I'm sticking with Jesus on that one.
Yeah.
Jesus makes more sense.
I mean, I think that's a huge moment in history and time for Joe Rogan to say something like that. I think it's greatly underestimated. I know it went viral. He has 20 million subscribers. You know, he has a huge platform everywhere. And the influence that he has just by saying something like that is simply incredible. I can't even put it into words. And it's just mind blowing what Democrats and liberals will do to even their biggest supporters at one time. And I'm going to end it with that. Thanks for tuning in to Unbreakable with Chris Chamasiros.